Every person, at some point in life, has looked at their own reflection and quietly asked, "Why do I keep doing this to myself?" It's a question that echoes through our private moments, through failures we could have avoided, through dreams that never left the ground. We sabotage ourselves not because we enjoy failure, but because somewhere inside us, failure feels safer than success. This paradox lies at the heart of human psychology, a strange defense mechanism built to protect us from pain, but which often ends up creating it. Self-sabotage is not laziness, weakness, or lack of discipline. It's a deep psychological pattern, a hidden contract between our fears and our desires. It's the invisible hand that makes you procrastinate right before an important opportunity, the quiet voice that tells you you're not ready yet, or you'll mess it up anyway. It's the reason you text your ex when you're finally starting to heal, or quit a project right before it takes off. The brain thinks it's keeping you safe from rejection, from loss, from disappointment. But in reality, it's trapping you inside the same cycle over and over again. To understand self-sabotage, you have to understand the oldest part of your brain, the limbic system, the part responsible for emotion and survival, evolved long before logic and reasoning. It was designed to keep you alive, not to make you happy. When it senses danger, whether real or imagined, it reacts instantly, without asking permission from the rational mind. That's why, even when you know what you should do, you often find yourself doing the opposite. Your brain doesn't care about your goals, it cares about safety. And to the brain, change feels dangerous. Deep down, the fear of success is often stronger than the fear of failure. Because success means exposure. It means being seen, judged, and possibly losing what you've gained. Failure, on the other hand, is familiar. It's predictable. You already know how to survive it. So your subconscious, in its twisted logic, chooses the familiar pain over the uncertain joy. It whispers, "If I don't try, I can't fail. If I fail on purpose, I stay in control." That illusion of control is one of the strongest human addictions. Many people grow up believing they don't deserve good things. Maybe a parent was critical, or love was conditional, or mistakes were punished instead of understood. Over time, the brain learns that pain is normal and comfort is suspicious. So when life starts going well, the subconscious panics. It starts looking for something to fix, something to break, just to restore the balance of familiar suffering. It's not logic, it's survival programming. The mind is simply trying to return to what it knows best: discomfort. Self-sabotage often hides behind habits that look innocent. Perfectionism, for example, feels like ambition, but it's often fear in disguise. "If I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all" sounds noble, but it's really just another way to avoid the possibility of failure. Overthinking feels like preparation, but it's actually a delay tactic. You tell yourself you're analyzing, but you're really building a cage made of endless possibilities, each one scarier than the last. Even procrastination, that constant postponement of action, is not about being lazy. It's about fear of what happens after you act. The psychology of self-sabotage is cruel because it gives you temporary relief while ensuring long-term regret. When you avoid a challenge, you feel a momentary peace, but deep down, a quiet guilt starts growing. You know you're capable of more. You know you're avoiding something meaningful. That tension between who you are and who you could be becomes a kind of psychological friction, slowly eroding your confidence. Each time you betray your potential, your mind learns to trust you a little less. The brain has a fascinating way of justifying self-sabotage. It will rewrite the story to make the failure sound rational. "I didn't really want that job. That relationship wasn't right anyway. It wasn't the right time." These stories protect your ego in the short term, but they bury you deeper in denial. You begin to live a life made of excuses, a comfortable prison decorated with rationalizations. You might not even notice how many doors you've locked yourself behind. But here's the strange thing about self-sabotage. It always comes from a place of self-protection. No one destroys their own progress out of pure malice. It's always an attempt, however misguided, to feel safe, loved, or in control. The inner saboteur is not your enemy. It's the frightened child inside you, doing whatever it can to prevent rejection or failure. Once you see it that way, the fight becomes a dialogue. You stop asking, "Why am I broken?" and start asking, "What am I trying to protect?" Psychologists have found that the roots of self-sabotage often grow in early emotional experiences. A child who learns that attention only comes through struggle may unconsciously recreate that dynamic as an adult. A child who felt unseen may chase achievement endlessly, sabotaging peace whenever it appears. The mind doesn't care about happiness, it cares about familiarity. That's why people often repeat the same emotional patterns even when they cause pain, because pain, at least, is predictable. The real danger of self-sabotage is not that it ruins opportunities, it's that it shapes your identity. When you fail repeatedly, your mind starts building a new narrative. I'm the kind of person who never finishes things. I'm not lucky. I always mess up. And once identity gets involved, the cycle becomes harder to break. Because now, sabotaging yourself doesn't feel like failure. It feels like confirmation of who you believe you are. What most people don't realize is that self-sabotage can be subtle. It's not just procrastination or fear. It's staying in the wrong relationship because you're scared of being alone. It's not applying for that job because you assume you're not good enough. It's choosing comfort over growth again and again, until you wake up one day realizing you've become a spectator in your own life. We live in a culture that glorifies self-discipline but punishes self-compassion. We think the cure for self-sabotage is more control, more hustle, more pressure, but that's like trying to calm a scared animal by shouting at it. The part of you that sabotages is not lazy, it's terrified. It doesn't need punishment. It needs understanding. To begin breaking the cycle, you first have to notice the moment right before you sabotage yourself. That instant when discomfort appears and your instinct says, "Run." That's where awareness begins, because awareness is the light that exposes the pattern. Once you can see it, you can name it. And once you can name it, you can change it. Once you start noticing the moments of self-sabotage, a quiet power begins to awaken inside you. It's not dramatic, it's not instant, but awareness itself changes everything. Because awareness is like light. Once it shines on a shadow, the shadow loses its control. The problem is, most people never pause long enough to see the pattern happening in real time. They only wake up after the damage is done, after the text is sent, the opportunity missed, the dream delayed. But what if for once you didn't react? What if in that small space between thought and action you simply watched? That pause, that second of observation, is where transformation begins. In that space, your mind becomes the witness instead of the prisoner. You begin to notice how fear disguises itself as logic, how comfort whispers through excuses, how your brain plays the same melody of self-doubt every time you approach something new. The melody never changes. You just start hearing it more clearly. Breaking the cycle of self-sabotage is not about forcing yourself to change overnight. It's about creating safety within growth. The brain will not let go of old habits until it feels safe to do so. So paradoxically, the first step is not discipline, it's compassion. You have to show the frightened part of yourself that it doesn't need to protect you through destruction anymore. You do that by staying, by sitting with discomfort, by letting it pass without running away. Most people treat fear as a wall. In reality, fear is just a doorway, but one that only opens inward. When you walk toward it instead of avoiding it, you discover something unexpected. Fear loses its edge when you face it consciously. The discomfort you've been avoiding your whole life is often just the growing pain of becoming who you really are. Think about it. Every version of you that ever existed was born out of discomfort. Growth is not a reward for avoiding pain. It's the result of walking through it. The brain learns through experience. Every time you stay in that uncomfortable zone, your nervous system recalibrates. It starts learning that change is not danger, it's expansion. But breaking self-sabotage isn't just psychological, it's biological. Each time you repeat an old habit, you strengthen a neural pathway, a kind of mental highway. To break the cycle, you have to build a new path. That's where repetition comes in. Small, consistent actions are the most powerful form of rebellion against your old programming. You don't need a massive breakthrough, you need micro-courage, the daily act of choosing differently, even when the fear still whispers. You'll fail at this sometimes. Everyone does. You'll fall back into patterns, and the voice of doubt will return, saying, "See, you haven't changed." But failure is not proof of weakness. It's proof that you're trying to rewrite the story. Healing is not linear, it's recursive. The old programming doesn't vanish, it fades, one conscious choice at a time. And as you start building these small wins, something begins to shift. You begin to trust yourself again. That's the real cure for self-sabotage. Self-trust. When you trust your own choices, you stop needing control. You stop fearing outcomes. You stop preemptively destroying things just to avoid disappointment. Because you finally know, whatever happens, you can handle it. The deeper truth is that self-sabotage was never about destruction. It was always about protection. It's just that the protector got stuck in the past. Every time you wanted to be loved and weren't, every time you tried and failed, that part of you took notes. It learned that safety means staying small. But now, as an adult, you have to teach it something new, that safety can exist inside expansion, not outside it. You have to become your own safe space for growth. It helps to start talking to that inner saboteur, not as an enemy, but as a scared friend. You can literally say, "I see you. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but we're okay now." It sounds strange, but neuroscience supports it. Self-talk activates the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, and calms the emotional centers that trigger sabotage. You're reparenting yourself, teaching the mind that fear is not a stop sign. It is a signal to slow down and keep going consciously. Another powerful technique is identity shifting. Instead of trying to stop sabotaging, focus on who you want to become. The brain is loyal to identity. If you see yourself as someone who always messes up, your actions will align with that belief. But if you start telling yourself, "I'm someone who follows through even before you fully believe it," your subconscious starts adapting. Behavior follows identity, not the other way around. And slowly you begin to notice the changes. You start finishing what you start. You start saying no when you mean no, and yes when you mean yes. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve your energy. You begin to feel grounded, not in perfection, but in honesty. That's what breaking self-sabotage looks like. Not a sudden victory, but a quiet return to self-trust. Most of us have lived our whole lives under the illusion that we must fix ourselves before we can move forward. But the truth is, you don't need to be fixed. You just need to be honest about what's been holding you back. Healing is not becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were before you learned to doubt yourself. And maybe that's the ultimate secret. Self-sabotage fades not when you punish yourself for it, but when you outgrow it. When you stop needing the armor that once kept you safe. When you realize that vulnerability is not weakness, it's freedom. Because once you stop fearing your own potential, the world can no longer use fear to control you. So if you've been caught in that endless loop, starting, stopping, doubting, giving up, know this: you're not broken. You're just scared. And that's okay. The mind is a master of stories, but you are the author now. Every moment you choose awareness over avoidance, Courage over comfort, truth over fear. You rewrite the story. And one day, you'll look back and realize that the person who once sabotaged everything, who once feared success, who once hid behind excuses, is gone. In their place stands someone quiet, calm, and free. Someone who no longer fights their own reflection, but finally understands it. Because self-sabotage is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new one, the moment you decide to stop running from yourself and start listening. If this message hits something deep inside you, it means your mind is ready to change its story. Don't let this be another insight you forget tomorrow. Let it be the first step. Watch it again, take a breath, and remember, awareness is the seed of transformation. And if you want to keep exploring the hidden side of the human mind, the fears, the paradoxes, and the strange beauty of what makes us human, then stay with us. Subscribe to MindDecode HQ and keep decoding the mind, one truth at a time.